Hey, y'all, and welcome to Spill the Spirituality. It's our weekly chance to scout out all things spiritual, Jesus, jujitsu, justice, craftivism, or communion, lighting a candle, or starting to meditate. Delete as applicable. Everybody's truly invited. I'm Trey Hall, a minister all the way from Memphis, Tennessee, now in London, a notorious homosexual, 16 years sober, and still trying to ask the big questions and inviting friends to join us on the way. My friend and co-host Jaz is away. She's back next week. But today we are so thrilled to be talking to a renegade economist whose work explores what I think is one of the deepest spiritual questions of today. What does it mean to live well and to live together on a finite planet? Kate Raworth is the creator of Donut Economics. If that's new to you, don't worry. I was totally shit at maths, and I find this so compelling. And remember, this is Spill the Spirituality, not The Economist magazine. Kate's work challenges the myth of endless growth and introduces us to a more relational vision of prosperity, honoring human dignity and the dignity of the living earth. Kate Raworth, welcome.
Thank you very much. I'm very delighted to be here.
I think you're our first economist on the podcast in 4 years.
Wow. And since you immediately associated economics with maths, actually, when I was writing my book, I was waiting to pick up my kids at the school gate and I would chat with parents and they'd say, what do you do? And I said, well, I'm writing a book about rethinking economics. And many people immediately step back and go, oh, I wasn't very good at maths at school. And I would always say, well, the only numbers in my book are the page numbers. So I think we've all got this.
That makes me feel like I can participate in the conversation in a different way. I mean, I have read your book, so I'm feeling good about it anyway. But what is economics if not the study of maths?
Well, people think economics is maths because at university, it gets really heavily mathematized. I mean, economics departments are often recruiting mathematicians, and students who want to study economics have to demonstrate that they have pretty strong math skills because it's taught and explored and expressed in the language of maths, which I don't think is the right place to start. Because I think if you start with the maths, well, first of all, you exclude all the people who aren't good at maths and don't think mathematically, and actually you're excluding so many other kinds of intelligence. But also the maths is a mathematical representation of much more fundamental models that we can draw. Is one circle inside another, are two circles side by side? What fits within what? There's much deeper relational models sitting underneath all that maths. So I wasn't taught economics in maths. I was very lucky. I studied in the 1990s, and my professor at university was insistent that he would teach us in diagrams, and he would draw these diagrams on the wall and said, if you really want to go further and put the maths to it, fine, but I want you to just deeply understand this issue rather than expressing it in models. And that's why I stayed in economics. So I think it's really important not to assume that you have to understand maths to understand economics.
That's relieving. I still don't think I'd have a chance in the field. I was in high school calculus. I was reading pre-medicine, and I still have like nightmares about like functions. I still don't know really in calculus what a function actually is, because I was that kid who was like trying to get good grades, good marks, but I didn't kind of understand it conceptually. So I'd memorize the examples in the textbook and like do okay on the quizzes and the tests. But I never really understood like the concept. I still to this day, I have no idea what a function is. But maybe we'll demystify some of this.
I think we can just leave functions aside.
Okay.
Right?
Leave them out.
Leave them out.
You've been described as, and I think call yourself, or maybe someone called you this first, like a renegade economist. And we love renegades of all varieties on this podcast. We attract folks who are outside of the box thinkers and explorers and pilgrims and innovators. Before we dive into the economics, what makes you a renegade?
That's a really good question. So I studied economics at university. I did a master's degree, but by the end of it all, I realized I never wanted to say, hello, I'm an economist. I didn't feel proud of this discipline that I studied because I had gradually realized what it was missing, what it wasn't seeing, and what it wasn't making visible. So I didn't want to identify as an economist. So that left me kind of as nothing, like without a kind of disciplinary attachment. And I worked in the world, people say, oh, I'm an ecologist, I'm a biologist, I'm an epidemiologist. What are you? I'm a political scientist. What are you? I don't know. Well, maybe that was a blessing in disguise, but I never wanted to identify as an economist because it conjures up. People think, oh, you must be interested in bond prices and you must be interested in inflation. And these things matter, but that's not what I was interested in. I was interested in human rights and protecting the planet. And so I never called myself an economist. And then one day somebody said to me, oh, you're a renegade economist. And I just thought, I can be that.
Work with that.
I can work with that because it captured a playful spirit, but it also captured what I'd done, which was walk away from academic economics. I didn't do a PhD. I walked away, immersed myself in the real world economy. And then after the financial crash, started walking back towards economics, thinking this needs to be rewritten so it reflects reality. So I was a renegade coming back towards it.
I'm sort of imagining you at like mixers and networking events and conferences. Nice to meet you. Oh, I'm a renegade economist. Totally a different.
But of course, people do immediately go, but what's that?
Yes.
And so it opens up a really interesting conversation about what you're a renegade about and what you're trying to transform. So yeah, I'm happy to be. Some people say to me, no, you mustn't call yourself a renegade because you must establish that the kind of economics that you're doing now should be the real economics. Well, yeah, but I'm also quite a playful person, so I'm happy to be the renegade.
I could tell. Give it 100 years, maybe the renegade, like that liminal stuff now will be the central stuff in 100 years. You just
the plan.
You plant the seeds, baby, and see what happens. You the lineage of your work. Who knows?
Along with many, many, many other people.
Exactly.
Right? It's like part of a big, big plan. Yeah.
I love that. And I think we'll get into donut economics in a little bit. But like, I think one of the things I love about it is it's not about one person and then everything comes out from the center or one institution or one centralization of power. It is this network of distribution and a web of connection. You're an important node in that web, an important intersection, but not the only one.
Yeah, drop important. I'm a node in the web. It's all a big, it's all many ideas coming together.
Oh, I love that. You're so humble. My spiritual director always says you're so important, but you're a tiny little pixel of importance alongside 8 billion other very important pixels. That's just talking about human animals. We haven't talked about other animals and all the rest of the creation. So you're important and valued and loved, but a tiny little pixel in the grand.
I can go with that. And actually, I have to say, there was one day in my life when I just realized how completely tiny and insignificant I was. And I found it such a liberating thought. I'm completely tiny and insignificant, so I can just play and do things. And I found it really empowering to think like that.
I also have a job title or a role that is great for cocktail parties. So, what do you do? I'm a minister of the gospel. People are like, really? They either will lean in and be like, that sounds complicated, or they'll run for the bar, and that's fine too. They can,
Oh, that's what they do with economists. You see, you go, I'm an economist. I just need to go and get another drink. So you and me, we have quite a lot in common, right there.
Well, we'll find a pastors and economists circle in the corner. You've told us a little bit about what makes you a renegade economist. I'm really interested in origin stories. What made you a renegade person? Did you think of yourself when you think of the 8-year-old or 15-year-old Kate? Were you a renegade then?
I wasn't the big rebel kid, and I was quite quiet and quite introvert and reading a lot of the time. I come from a white middle class London family, right? My parents moved from Derbyshire to London. I grew up in a well-off family in a leafy borough of London. So privilege. Absolutely. And I'm really aware of that. And I try and go back and think about, why did I care about these issues? I cared about the environment. I organized litter picking amongst kids in my neighborhood along the river. It's very middle class environmentalism. I organized kids to pick up all the litter that people had dumped along the river. And I remember growing up seeing what we called tramps in the 1980s, right? Homeless people, homeless men. Where I lived in an affluent part of London, but there were these homeless men around, and I became quite fascinated by them and talked to them and found and really noticed them in talking to them that they were people, that they had lives and histories and stories. And I was about 12 at the time, but I was really fascinated. And so that's literally, I can reach out to that as where I can first trace back a kind of environmental care and a sort of social justice or an awareness of inequality in my own little West London life.
I love that. Let's dive into a non-economist magazine kind of intro to donut economics, sort of a donut economics 101. How would you describe the work you're passionate about to those who don't have a master's in economics?
Oh, so the word economics comes from ancient Greek. It's two words. It's ekos and nomos. And ekos means the household. It's the same as ecology means understanding the household of the living planet. And so the household, and the nomos means the art or the norms of management. So economics literally means the art of managing the household. That's what it means. So if anyone's interested in the art of managing the household, whether it's literally your own household or your national household, or I think this is the era of the planetary household. If you care about how we collectively manage our household in the interest of her inhabitants, well, you could say, oh, I'm an economist, right? That's the real meaning of it. And so for me, that becomes a really gripping question of what are we trying to do here? What's the goal? What's the goal of the way we live together on this planet? And the economics I studied never talked about that goal. It was implicit, and it was endless growth measured in GDP, the gross domestic product of a country. And that's totally unsatisfactory. So I wanted to reframe, what is the goal? What would success look like? What would progress be? I often say, what's the shape of progress? It's not endless growth. And I drew a diagram that looks a bit like a donut, but at the heart of it is the goal of meeting the needs of all people within the means of this living planet. That is the heart of what I call donut economics. And if that becomes our goal, if we start by saying, the aim here is to meet the needs of everybody within the means of this incredible, unique living planet, then what kind of economy would we create that had a good chance of doing that? That's what I'm passionate about.
Beautiful. You talk about, I've read the book. I've watched your TED Talk, which is a great intro for folks who want to a little more than, a little more. That TED Talk from 2018. It's a lovely intro. And you talk about sort of a new shape of progress was your line. It's a really beautiful way of distilling it. A new shape of progress, not an ever rising line of growth, but a sweet spot, I think you say, of like a dynamic balance.
Yeah.
Why is that? That just sounds so good. Like, why is it controversial? Why is that renegade? It's just a matter of like a dynamic balance. Why is what you're proposing so controversial?
I can flip it and say, why does that sound so good to you? Like, why does that feel right? And I think it feels good to us because we know deep within our own bodies that our health lies in balance. And our own body is like a miniature version of a planetary body. Every human body is this little complex, adaptive, ever-changing system. And we know that we need enough food, but not too much. We need enough water, but not too much. Enough oxygen, but not too much. Enough warmth and temperature, but not too much. They need everything, but not too much of it. We deeply know in our bodies that our health lies in finding that sweet spot that we call health. We know that within our bodies. And I think we have a huge opportunity this century to take that as the metaphorical, our metaphorical leap we need to make from the human body to the planetary body, because we've inherited an economic system that tells us, oh, for things to get better, to make progress, we need to see the economy grow. We need to see more and more monetary value generated year on year. Now, growth, let's go back to our bodies. Growth is a wonderful and healthy phase of life, right? We love seeing our kids grow. We love seeing them crawl forward and stand up. We love seeing plants grow. We're recording this in February, right? We're just seeing the first shoots of life come through the ground. We know that Earth is alive because things are growing. So growth is a sign of life. But come back to our bodies. If my friend goes to the doctor and the doctor tells her she's got a growth, nobody's excited about that. Because we use that metaphorically to say cancer, right? And so we know deeply inside us that when there's something within our bodies that's trying to grow endlessly within the delicate dynamic balance of our body, that's a threat to our health. So we know that growth is a wonderful, healthy phase of life, but nothing that we love on this earth thrives by growing forever. If my kids, my kids, I've got 17-year-old twins. When they were little, they literally grew 2 inches every year. It was incredible. And you measure it on the door frame each birthday, right? Bang, 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 growing. If they kept on growing 2 inches a year, they literally wouldn't fit in the house anymore. They literally could not dine with us at the table. They would not belong in their home. So things need to grow until they grow up and they mature and they come to be the right size and they come to belong. That's what everything in life does. So why would our economies be the one system that would buck that trend and apparently be more successful by growing endlessly and endlessly, no matter how rich a nation is? You're in the UK, right? So we're sitting in here in the UK. Yeah. People in high income countries, whether it's in Europe or the US or Japan or Canada, Australia, and these are some of the richest countries in the entire history of humanity. Nations have not had such high income per capita as they have now. And yet we listen to our politicians and their economic advisors, and they will tell us that the solutions to all of our problems lies in yet more growth endlessly, even in the richest of countries. There's something absurd ultimately about that. And that's what I want to question.
Oh, it's so compelling to hear you kind of talk about it. I can feel the passion that's within you. So thank you for that. I'm just thinking about growing up in the States, and I grew up in a working class family that my parents both worked and quite quickly moved to the leafy green burbs and lived a sort of a modest suburban kind of, we'd say, in a middle class, but not in the same way in Britain as middle class. But there is this kind of thing that message in America, and I know it's not just American, that really is the sense of like working hard, the dignity of work, having a destiny that you didn't start with, a story that you didn't start with, moving up. And it's extremely compelling, and it wins elections. And I want to just honor that there are folks who are living in poverty and living in situations that are not ideal, where they don't have everything they need. And so the desire for growth is that, to me, that feels like a healthy and understandable one.
Oh, yeah. At the heart of donor economics is saying we need to meet the needs of all people, right? And so we need to, and everybody has a claim, has a fundamental right that's recognized by the world's governments to decent food and healthcare and education and housing and access to transport and voice and income. We need to ensure that people meet their essential needs. In fact, donor economics focuses on those who don't have. The challenge I think we face is that what is a big enough house or a good enough means of transport? It can go from owning a bicycle to owning a moped to having a small car and having a bigger car. Right? So our expectations, and I think largely fueled by the advertising industry to keep up with the neighbors, to keep up with those we see on TV. Oh, raising the aspiration of what it means to have enough until I feel respected. We want to feel belonging. People don't like a wide inequality because it can mean I clearly don't have enough if those folks have got all that. So it continually ratchets up. And I think we can get caught in a treadmill of how much material goods do I need versus actually what do I want from community? What does it mean to have a rich life because I have community, because I have access to green spaces and clean air, and my kids can get to school and home safely, right? These things are really valuable, but they're not material goods that we buy. So I think we have to step back and ask ourselves, what is a good life? And remove the advertising message that tells us, oh, you always need more and you need more. Because there's a lot of money to be made from that.
Oh, loads of money. What do you think people in leaders, I'm thinking about leaders, not just elected leaders, but leaders across the academy, business, third sector, what fears do you think leaders actually have when you ask them to consider a world that's not just about more, faster, and bigger?
It's a great question. I'm going to give two answers. One, we've come from a century of economic storytelling in our politics that tells us that more is better. So growth, the word growth just means good when you hear politicians talking. We need growth, and it's become almost synonymous with good. So if you take that away, then it opens up a big question that you suddenly have to answer then what is good? And it's much easier to go along with what's already been established and to speak to that and to promise people more, because actually what's not to like? You know, if you're telling me there's no downside to me having a bigger car and a bigger house and flying further my holidays and eating more food that's traveled further across the world and buying more clothes, if there's no downside to that, then we can easily get drawn into it. So more is better has been laid down as a mantra, and to undo that and puts the onus on you to speak to what is better then. And it takes us into a big philosophical conversation. But I think the second one is a fear that, well, if we stop growing our company, will our competitors outbid us? Or if our nation stops growing while the rest keep going, will we be booted out from the G20? Will we lose our position? So there's a kind of collective action, or there's competition with others that keeps everybody growing to keep up with everybody else who's growing to keep up with them. And I think this is a really important collective action problem that we get caught up in.
Yeah. I was thinking about like nuclear disarmament kind of stuff,
yes.
like the whole thing around like, we have to show, no one wants to use them. Very few people want to use them, but we have to show ourselves to be capable of using them. And so for someone to sort of say like, I'm out, like I'm not going to play that game anymore, it cracks at the kind of, not the foundations of humanity, but the foundations, at least of the last century, the last 60 years of what it means to have life and power. And those are hard stories to sort of dismantle.
Yes, and we're seeing that, I think, in the battle between major corporations to dominate the food sector or the tech sector, to be the first to develop AI, right? If I don't do it, somebody else will do it, so I better do it. And this mentality that if I have to go as fast and grow as much as I can, otherwise I will be overwhelmed by somebody else doing it more than me, is driving a lot of the world, and not in a good way. Because if you're making decisions on that basis, rather than saying what is good for the health of the whole, where do we all want to end up? You're going to take decisions that don't take us to a good place.
I'm really interested in what it means for you. The question is like, what does it mean for you to live a good life? And I guess I mean that for you as a thought leader. I sort of hate that term, but as someone who's participating in conversations about the common good. And what does that mean for you as Kate? You know, what does it mean to live a good life?
What do we really want in life? People, including myself, we want to be recognized, as in we want to be seen, right? We want that lovely feeling of when you live in a neighborhood long enough and you go in the coffee shop and the person says, hey, you know, how are you? And do you want your usual? Oh, you see me, I'm seen. So I'm recognized that I'm part of this community, that we want to belong in a community, that we want to be part of a group. For me, being creative is really important. Feeling that I can be expressive and creative and having purpose, knowing what I'm doing. I know at the times in my life when I felt like I'm flailing around, and it's like my partner always says, look, it's really clear. You haven't got a really clear purpose at the moment. What are you trying to make happen in the world? And I say all this from a place that I can put food on the table, and I've got a roof over my head, and you know, I can look after my family. So there's a privilege behind that as well. I totally acknowledge that. So for me, I really enjoyed letting go of some things. Like we used to own a car. Like I've got twins, and when they were little, it was really hard to go anywhere without a car. But about 6 years ago, we just said, you know what, we don't need a car anymore. So we let go of owning a car. And at first, I remember sitting in the car the night before a truck came to take it away, and it felt so familiar, and it smelled of family summer holidays and having my kids in the back and being able to take them. It felt so precious, and I couldn't believe I was letting go of it. And then when the truck loaded it up and drove it off around the corner, only when it had gone from view, that I felt this lightness of I could let go of that. Now I can let go of it because I live in a city. I live in the city of Oxford in the UK, and I live in a place where there's a car club. So I can rent a car if I need one. So I didn't need to own that one. So I've enjoyed some of the letting go. And again, I'm doing this from a place of privilege. I can bike around the city. I can take the train. I can rent a car if I need one. But the letting go of the material goods. When I think about the things that really give me joy, and actually, you know what? My favorite question when I meet new people, I could be a bit shy when I meet new people. So my favorite thing I just say to somebody is like, well, what's bringing you joy right now? Actually, you know what? I'm going to ask you right now. What's bringing you joy right now, Trey?
Fiction, singing with people, a cappella, and long distance running along the Thames.
Wow.
Those are some of the things. I've got a joyous life. I'm have to say I really feel grateful. So what about you?
Well, that's very funny. So my sister is an avid long distance runner along the Thames. You probably pass each other all the time.
Oh gosh.
You know what's bringing me joy right now?
What?
A cappella.
Really?
I love singing. So I sing jazz, and I've just recently put together a little a cappella group of 6 people.
Oh
And
my
we've
God.
just literally, we've had our 3rd rehearsal, and it's the thing that's bringing me joy. So it's about having a small group that you belong in, that you've got responsibility to. You've got to know your part. I'm the one organizing it, bringing all the music together, and it's just bringing me so much joy. And I'm not religious, and I didn't grow up with a religious background. And I'm really happy to chat about that. But there's one song we're singing, which is from the gospel tradition, called Wings of a Dove.
Oh, yeah.
That I just get so high when we sing this song. And I think I either have been in a gospel choir in a past life, or damn, I'm going to come back and be in that one the next one. Because I just love it.
What does it make you feel when you sing that song? What happens to you physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually when you sing?
You said spiritual there, and I need a longer conversation before I tell you anything else.
Well, let's dive.
What happens to me?
Yeah,
we can absolutely dive into that. What happens to me? So that song, there's some chords in it, and just the groove, and it's tapped into jazz that I love, and there's some chord. If I had the wings of a dove, wings that would take me.
Come on now.
Where I wanna go. And it goes like that. And where it goes, where I wanna go. This is by Rhiannon, by the way. If you look up Rhiannon Wings of a Dove, you'll find the recording. And that chord, I'm so bursting with joy in my heart when I sing that chord. I can barely sing the chord. I can barely sing the note. I just thrills me.
Oh,
I just love it.
I am with you, sister.
Yeah. So singing a cappella is my new joy. And singing jazz, but also I bring musicians together, and we do something called Jam in the Kitchen. I just get local musicians, and we play in my kitchen once every 3 or 4 months. And that brings me so much joy when I know it's coming up, because I know this group of people are getting together, and we're going to sit down, and people are going to bring something. And it's that thing of, Hannah, what have you got? And she sings this incredible Joni Mitchell song. And then, somebody else, Joe, what have you got? Or my daughter plays. And it's the unique contribution of everybody. Everybody's voice is different. Gorgeous young man called Bernardo, Brazilian young man, just sings incredible Brazilian jazz. It's the uniqueness of every voice. It's actually going back to that point at the beginning. We were saying, like, you're important, but like every single little pixel is important. I want to say you're unique, and every pixel is unique. And it's the joy of hear that one and hear that one and this voice and this voice. I just love it. I would much rather sit in a kitchen of amateur musicians playing to each other with their unique specificity than going to a concert of brilliant professionals, to be honest, because I just love the hidden creativity that's among everyone. It's everywhere.
If we could talk about the spiritual, so this podcast is called Spill the Spirituality.
Yeah, I noticed.
And I love, that's the name of it. So it's pretty obvious. And we ask every guest about their spirituality or lack thereof, as a matter of course. And what I love about this podcast is we have people who are kind of all across the map, from atheists who are open to wonder to traditional religious folks of many religions and everything in between. And so, we always ask the question, on that kind of that spectrum of spirituality, where do you sit, or how would you describe yourself?
So my first question would be like, what do you mean? What are we talking about? Because I think people mean very, very different things. I've never used the word spiritual because I didn't grow up with a religious family tradition at all. In fact, I had quite a funny experience. My parents never took me to church. I grew up in a very loving home. But when I was 16, I had to have an operation, and I was with my mom in the hospital. And they were giving me general anesthetic, and they said, name, religion. And I said, none. And my mum went, Kate! She was really embarrassed. I said, what? And she said, you're C of E. And I was like, what's that? I literally, what is that? I don't know what you mean. I'm C of E. What is that? That's the extent of my religious education. Yeah. I didn't grow up with organized religion. I didn't grow up going to church at all. So when people say spiritual or sacred, I think, that's I've always grown up, that's religion, and that's not me. But I've been on my own journey, and I've got friends who would tease me about this for talking about it with you now, because they've been teasing me, you're gonna spiritually, let me get to the point. In relation to the earth, that's the living earth. If I say, okay, I look up the word spiritual, and it says, the dictionary is not very helpful. It says not material, the soul. I'm like, okay, what's the soul? What do we mean? I look up the word sacred. I can go more with the word sacred. Can I take that as my entry point?
Yeah.
Can I go sacred? So sacred meaning something that's deserving of reverence and deep respect. It's like, okay, I'm up this. For me, the earth is sacred. I can go in this door, and I can feel a deep reverence and awe and wonder for life, which I am aware of only on this extraordinary planet.
Yes.
And I feel a deep reverence for that. So for me, the living earth is sacred. So I'm going to ask you, so can you help me now? I've told you what sacred, that's the doorway I can come towards sacred. Can you help me understand what spiritual means, or what might it mean for me?
Well, since we're not in an academic class, like I think
Thank
if
goodness.
we would say, like, let's define our terms, and I think I would talk about spirituality in a general sense, like in a life force that is running through everything, and that is the source of every created being, the source that holds it in being and holds it together, and that spirituality is an awareness of that source, an awareness of that life, that power, that presence, kind of, that's running through everything, and that holds everything.
Okay, so just right there. So I am aware of, I sense the life force that runs through everything. Therefore, by that, I mean, I know I don't want to be really overly reductive here, but I'm just going with you. There is a life force that runs through everything, and that's what makes me see the living world in awe.
Yeah.
So I can go there.
You can go with that one.
I can go with that one.
You can go with that one.
I can go with that one.
There's so many answers, right? And that's sort of the podcast is like, they're within traditional religions, there are different spiritualities, So like, I'm a committed Christian. I was, like you, sort of raised in a family that had some connection through the census, like tick the box, like one side did, but one side didn't. And we would go to church like Christmas and Easter. My grandparents were Christians, but it wasn't a big part of our life.
Yeah.
But when my mom has heard me tell this story before, but when I told my parents, like when I went to uni to read medicine, and first kid to go to uni in the family system, blah blah blah, and like I'm going to read medicine, and so proud of that, and good student. And then I was like, basically had these moments of, in the first couple of years, of some deeply conversion experiences, which for me was about which paired with coming out of the closet. And so when I went home and told my parents, I'm not going to become a doctor, I think I'm going to do theology and become a pastor, they're like, we did not raise you this way. How did this happen? But yeah, so within Christianity, there are some folks who would, take issue with what I just said and say, no, spirituality is X, Y, Z.
And that's that right there is why I find it hard to use the word, because it means such different things to so many people. I wouldn't be sure if we were understanding each other saying, oh, I'm very spiritual.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good point. I mean, I guess like within, it's probably even more expansive than like saying I'm an economist. Like that could mean you're an economist of the University of Chicago School, and we'd be like, okay.
No, but you're so right. People like when there's an issue, like, we're analyzing food systems, or we're analyzing, I don't know, agriculture, and people say, what we need is an economist on the team. And I'm just like, yeah, but what kind of economist do you want on the team? I mean, just it that makes all the difference. It's not just an economist. Exactly. Great analogy.
This kind of spiritual, this sacredness that this reverence of the earth and the living earth, as you say, is so beautiful. I also share that. And one of the reasons I love running along the Thames is because I feel like even the Thames and its pollutedness is this living body running through the heart of the city, right? And
Yes.
I've been trying to get Robert McFarlane on the
yeah.
podcast. And so if you have any ends, let me know. But his whole thing around Is a River Alive?
Is a River Alive?
It's such a beautiful book. And
do you think a river's alive?
What's that?
Do you think as a river is alive?
Absolutely, a river's alive. And and alive with every created thing in it, but also alive as more than the sum of all the created things in it.
Yeah.
And also alive over time, and also alive, in the way it makes a mark, and also alive. Yeah, I definitely do. I'm sort of like a nature mystic, really. And I was before I was religious, I was the kid out in the lake, searching for tadpoles. I had my little laboratory in the back garage, So like I've really been drawn within Christianity to Christian spirituality that is really ecologically sound. That is, there are so many within Christianity, and I say that not to be like, Kate, I hope you'll like consider Christianity. Like I'm not doing that, but like what I love within Christianity, there are things within Christianity that I love, which are very, very much sort of Christ as the head of creation, not as the dominant master of it, but as like the one who cares for it and holds all of it within his being, So in Christ, all things cohere. So this kind of deep, beautiful, expansive cosmologies of what reality is, charged goodness and givenness. And so anyway, blah, blah, blah.
So there was me happy being a renegade economist, but now I've got massive FOMO. You're a nature mystic. That's way more cool.
Well, I'd like to be. This is my self-seeking. Yeah, it's a good cocktail thing. But yeah, I would. Am I a mystic? I don't know.
That's a whole. I've never even engaged with the word mystic. But I'll tell you. For me, I was raised good values, ethics, morals, justice, but not in any religious context. And I'm on my own journey of reconnecting with nature, as many people are. And some of my friends who I've encountered along this way tease me and say,
what do they teach you about?
Oh, can you, when they say the word sacred, and I'm like, what do you mean sacred? I'm gradually like, now I can understand what I can mean by sacred. Because when anyone would say sacred or spiritual in relation to the earth, I'm like, but that's religion. Where are you going? And so now and my entry point into it is understanding it through the living earth.
Love it.
Then it makes sense to me. But for me, it's really connected to being English as well. Let me explain. I'm a white middle-class English woman. I went to Oxford University. I'm one chromosome away from the kind of full dominant set here, right?
That's right, maybe.
Yeah. And I'm aware of Englishness. I'm not half Scottish. I'm not a quarter Welsh. I'm not a little bit Irish. I can't retreat to the dominated communities around these islands. I'm English. Englishness is something that colonized these islands, but also colonized the world. I can't escape from that. So I have to own that. And there's not a lot of joy in that. If you sit with Englishness and colonialism, there's not a lot of joy there. And yet I think, some of my wisest friends I've met through racial justice struggles and action and workshops and thinking say, hey, we'll only be healed when we're all healed. And you English need to find your way back too. And I find something very powerful in thinking if we can, our lives are built on the deep injustices of colonialism, of industrialization, of capitalism. And I feel, England, or you come to England, all the kind of the city but if we could take up those floorboards, if we could go beneath those layers, acknowledging them, but go beneath, there is still soil beneath that.
Yes.
And there's so a kind of eco spirituality, and I don't want to put labels on but if I had to, if someone's going to label me, they probably would come with that one. You can hear it, right? But finding belonging again, finding an indigeneity again through touching the soil and saying, where is this nature of this place, and who are we, and how can we now, as the modern Britain society of all of us who live here, connect with this place? That really inspires me. And that's where I want to find a spirituality. That's where I say, oh, if I'm going to find a spirituality, that's the journey I'm on. It's going to come there. It's going to be finding the nature that I know I belong to because I'm from these islands, and a reverence for that, and a connection to that bigger source and that bigger flow that you were talking about through that.
Amen. Just want to, before I give you thanks, we'll just say this thing about you don't have a car anymore and you don't fly anymore. And so we're talking about practices that we can do alongside the systemic change that we're working for. I read somewhere that you no longer fly. Is that true?
I almost would never fly. I'd have to find a really, really good reason to get on a plane, but I haven't gone on a plane. So I wouldn't have to say I never fly because that can be too absolute. But I don't tend to get on planes. Yeah.
So I also saw your Wikipedia page that your partner is Australian. Is that right?
That's not so easy, huh?
Yeah, it was. Yeah. I'm American and like my husband's British, so like that's where I'm like, oh, so I do fly back to the States. To see people,
I get it.
I'm not asking for like you to give me like you're all right, but like I guess these forces are immense and they are not outside of us. We are part of them. We participate in them. What do you feel like are ways that we can, I'm probably going to fly home to the States once every couple of years. What do we do with like our culpability in that and also our longing for a healed earth at the same time? Is it just acknowledging that like, yeah, we can do things that are healing and also acknowledge that our participation in this larger thing is also damaging at the same time? What do you think?
It's really complex one because I think the world is more beautiful because people from different countries fall in love. I just think the world is more beautiful as a interconnected cosmopolitan melting pot of. I love the neighborhood I live in because there's people from all over the world here. That's why I choose to live where I live. But it means, we all have commitments to family and weddings and births and funerals on the other side of the world. I don't have a great, easy answer for you on that one. We all have to get really good at Zoom. We have to get right and connecting this way. I suppose it's a difference between traveling far. So I'll never take a plane if I can, it's much easier to fall in love with somebody you can get
Europe.
to by train, right? Fall in love with somebody.
Some French.
Yeah. But to be intentional when we travel and to say, do I need to go for Christmas and my birthday and Thanksgiving and do I just hop on, hop off, or do I have an awareness of the responsibility for connecting well? Oh God, no, that sounds really moralizing. I don't want to do that. It's
well, and I'm not asking you to
really
be like
tricky.
I'm not asking you to be my confessor and like absolve me.
No, don't do that.
Not at all. I guess I'm more interested in like, not so much about flights, but like for those of us who are, who read this book. We're all
entangled. We're so all entangled, right?
In the world. Say like, amen. Like, yes, I want this, but I find it hard to live into this.
Yeah, but we all do. We all have the edge of the challenge, things we find hard to let go of and give up, whether it's foods we like that have come from across the world or clothes that have been made who knows where. So we're all deeply entangled in these systems. And I don't think it's for any one person to say, I must remove myself because it would become impossible to live. But collectively seeking a different dynamic in the world, that's what donut economics aims to do, and to reform the big systems that actually do benefit from the extraction of value from many that create huge inequalities in the world. I want to see those bigger systems reform rather than putting the onus on every individual to transform themselves in a world that doesn't support it and makes it cost way more to take a train than a plane, for example. It's not where we want to be. I really want to, what matters to me deepest is that thought of what is the shape of progress? And if we can move from thinking of progress as more and more and more and more, and actually thinking, no, it's about balance, and then think about where do you get joy? It's so often from relationship, from coming together in community, from singing, or from seeing a child learn. Or when I ask people, where do you get joy? It's I can't think of a time somebody says, because I bought a bigger, bought a bigger house or a bigger, it's not that. It's something relational. It's something about the quality of community and relationship, and to keep bringing our attention back there and say, those are the things that actually give me joy. Let me focus on making that at the heart of my life. That I think is a wise way to live.
It sounds sacred to me too.
Nearly even spiritual.
Kate, thank you so much for
pleasure.
taking time and for the conversation and for sharing your life work. And for those watching or listening, you can read more in this wonderful book, Donut Economics: 7 Ways to Think Like a 21st Century Economist. But not a boring University of Chicago economist, but a fascinating. Well, not that all U of C economists are boring, but a fascinating, liberative, renegade economist
that is earth connected, economics that begins in the living earth and the dignity and justice for all humans. Amen.
And a household that is cosmic and beautiful.
There we go.
Here we go. Y'all, we're back next week. If you're listening and you like this, or watching and you like this, let us know. Share any questions you've got with us. We'd love to hear your comments for future editions of our podcast or videocast. Spill the Spirituality is a project of the Methodist Church in Britain. Our producers are John Ryan and Rachel Matthews. I'm Trey Hall. Until next time, peace.